Hello everyone. Okay, so we are now at the stage where the boat is running. It's all working nicely and I have been tuning it and just really enjoying sailing it because it's a great boat. It's fantastic. Yesterday I had it at the pond running at periscope depth doing loops and it was just great. So between now and all of the stuff that I've done, there's a number of things that I need to comment on because I've changed a number of things. So as I've built the boat, I've just created videos as I've gone, sometimes in faith, because I'm thinking, I hope these are going to work, or this idea is going to work, and sometimes I didn't. So the first thing that I'm going to do now is just quickly go through several things that you will see in the videos coming up that I've changed. And as you do that, you'll realize as you go through the video, that probably won't be the same in the end, and you'll see other videos later on with the changes and blah blah blah, but that's just to try and reduce your confusion, of which there will be some. So as I've gone through, and you'll see the videos in the future, you'll see how I made, for example, the propeller shaft and the coupling and the seal for the motor. And you'll see that in detail, but what you'll find is I actually changed it later. So I'm just going to quickly go through those things so you've got a bit of an idea of what worked and what didn't work, more about what didn't work. So that business about the motor, what actually happened was this. I had the motor here and that had a shaft that came out here, which bolted onto another shaft, which then went through the seal, and I had an O-ring in there, and that was all 5mm, which then joined onto the prop at the end. That's a stupid idea, isn't it? What I ended up doing was taking this off, extending this, which is the real strength of a brushless motor. This then was 4mm. I then made a new housing for it with a different O-ring on it, and then connected that onto the motor. Instantly that stopped a whole lot of vibration because it's difficult enough to make one of these, never mind two. Okay, issue number one. Issue number two is that I cut the hull badly and I figured it didn't matter, I could fix it. Well, I probably should have stopped, got some more pipe and cut it the right way, because fixing that bit of pipe up to get the shape right took ages and I wouldn't like anyone to have to go through that. So either that, or if you look at my model, the Nautilus, which is made basically sort of a plank-on frame, which is then fiberglassed and bogged and all the rest of it, that could also have been an alternative. But the way I did it, I made it really hard for myself. Thirdly, the distance sensors. When I built those, I built them like this. Here's the piston, and I pulled the sensor back around about 4 centimeters and cut a hole in the bulkhead so that this could see the piston. For some reason I had the impression that the distance sensor wouldn't work up close. Well, I had problems with that and I've changed it all to this. First thing I did was open this hole up a little bit more, and I've got the distance sensor right there so that its area of reading comes out like that and isn't impeded at all. That's been a great help. Alright, now the next thing that I did wrong was to do with the watertight cylinders. I have this central section in here, which is the part where all of the electronics go. This is the stern piston, and this is the bow piston. and I connected the bow one with two O-rings on a plastic connector so that I can push them together. That was highly successful. It was terrific. This one, however, I decided I could get away with gluing this end onto the perspex, because this one has the added role of taking the wires, and the wires are all very carefully threaded into that WTC, that connector, and that means I really don't want to move that. I realized after a short amount of time that that was exceptionally stupid, because in fact I want to take this off in order to be able to get at all the electronics. It's really basic. But the problem is this plastic here that I used is only really thick enough for me to have two O-rings and a fairly small connecting piece, and I want a larger one there. So what I did was I hightailed it off down to the plastic shop. I got some much thicker stuff, machined it down, and put one in there that actually has an O-ring, so that I can pull that off so that I can get at all the guts in there, which was bloody good because I needed to do that all the time. Oh yeah, so when I made these, I had another problem. I realized I didn't have enough acrylic for that central piece. So I ordered some more acrylic, and it was to be 3mm thick, and I bought it, I don't know where I bought it from, but it came through the mail and there it was, and I realized immediately it was only 2mm thick, and I thought, I'll get away with that, that'll be fine. But as time went on, I realized I wasn't going to get away with that. So I did have a piece of 3mm, but it was reclaimed and it's a bit crappy looking, but I've got that working. I had to remachine the connections on either end because the tolerances were a bit different. But that's great. Alright, now the other thing is, I had enormous fun with building the sail, and I did it in a very unusual way. And I used aluminium alfoil and put real hatches behind the alfoil and then painted it over, and well, first there's two issues with it. The first one was that it was overdone. I never liked it right from the word go, and I thought once the boat's finished and it's running, when I've got some time, I'm going to redo the sail. I don't like that. But when I put it in the water and tested it out with now all of the sound baffles on the side, as you've seen me put on using aluminium flashing, the extra weight brought the boat down. I needed to adjust the lead in the boat, which meant that there was more weight toward the top than there was in the bottom, and then I put it in the water with a bit of wind and the thing just was really flopping around. So I realized I had to rethink the ballast, and part of that was taking the sail off and remaking it. So you won't find the detail on the old sail. You'll just find some detail on the new sail on the videos ahead, and it actually looks better. I just use 2 pieces of flashing and it really looks very nice, and it's a lot lighter. And the other thing that I did was I took some of the lead out of the inside of the hull and I dropped it under. It's sort of a no-no, but I just needed to do it. I had real trouble with the boat staying level. At the moment it's working really nicely. Alright, now some surprises, and I'll cover this. You'll see this in the video where we sail the boat. But it's a very different feel to my other submarines, because it's a big bugger and it's heavy and it's long. So you feel all of that in the remote control as you're driving it. You get the sense this is a different kind of boat. So what I tend to do is use very gentle touches on the prop, because the prop will make the boat spin. So if you do it really gently, it doesn't. And in real life, it's meant to be gentle anyway. So it's something that you learn how to do. When it comes to setting it up for the diving trim, I have to be, as I said, very careful about the fore and aft ballast and the adjustment. But once I've got that right, it's really spot on and it runs absolutely beautifully. Okay, so I had some problems. I've been running my 2 submarines to date on a Futaba 36 megahertz. It's all old stuff, really old stuff, and that's the problem for the model Submariner. Nothing's provided for you. So with this one, the new boat, I tried to find some old Futaba stuff to keep it running, but of course it was not going to happen. So as a result of that, I moved on to this, which is the orange LRS, etc., etc. And this is a totally different frequency. It's on this one it's 433. Blah blah. I'm not going to go into it now. So what I'm going to do, extraordinarily complicated to get this working. Very little really good advice. So I'm going to do a video that covers it all, and it's also going to be linked to some other videos which I think are really brilliant. So together we will do something which shows you how to get an orange system running at a really good price. But I've got to give that some thought. Alright, now the other thing was, right at the beginning I decided I was going to build into the Arduino the code and everything required for the boat to hold a course, having a compass. Now, I've pulled that out because it is an added degree of complication that we don't need. And there were other areas which I thought were more important. So it's out of the system now, it's out of the circuit diagram, blah blah blah, and it's out of the code. What I have replaced it with though, and I'm very proud of this, is something that I learned from my other 2 boats, the Nautilus and the U-boat, which is a self... Okay, the narrative here gets very confusing. I've installed in the code a depth maintaining routine that cuts in and out when the boat varies up or down more than about 4 centimeters off the spot which was designated by the snapshot. There's probably an 8 centimeter balancing area. If the boat is above or below, the Arduino causes the dual pistons to move in or out for 0.8 of a second, either up or down. This adds to the control, and in this sequence, other than the rudder, the boat is sailing it on its own. Of course, it depends that you ensure that your balance with the boat is worked out when you're doing the snapshot, and that you make sure that the boat is nicely balanced. Because if you don't do that, the boat will start to oscillate with this software. The way of solving this is to use some PID code. So if someone wants to develop that and send it back to me, I will be very pleased. Thank you. Okay, in the next 2 videos, I'm going to give you an overview of how the boat works in some detail. Then we're going to get the boat ready to go to the pond. Then we've got the next video will be some imagery of the boat at the pond, and then getting it and then stripping it down to put it away. All of these things are very important, and in order to maintain a boat like this. Okay, see ya.